Now that we have talked about Jesus' visit to Nazareth, let's take you on site, where we will share additional insights and details of his experience there.
So here we are in Nazareth, just a little bit above the Church of the Annunciation.
This is the boyhood home of Jesus. And right behind us is a Crusader chapel built almost 1,000 years ago over the remains of a synagogue that may have been the very synagogue where Jesus, as a man, comes to announce his ministry in Luke chapter 4.
And if that's the same synagogue, this would be the place where Jesus was raised, coming to synagogue every Sabbath day.
This would have been his church building.
So you can picture underneath this building, the synagogue at the time of Jesus. I love the way that this is worded in Luke chapter 4. He says, "And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read." I love that he went to church, stood up to read, and there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord." And then he rolls that scroll back up and hands it off. And every eye is on him as he goes and sits back down in the synagogue, waiting for the reader's interpretation. And he shocked them.
And he says, "This day is this scripture fulfilled in your ears."
And that got their attention. This to them was blasphemy, because they're looking at Jesus, Joseph's son, the carpenter. How could you take on this huge messianic role? It's blasphemy. So they got up to take him out, to throw him headlong off of a precipice.
But instead, he passed through their midst in safety.
What an amazing thing to trust that Jesus is who he says he is, the Son of God, prophesied by all the holy prophets. This is beautiful. Here we are at sunset with Nazareth in the background up on Mount Precipice, which is the traditional site for where the people brought Jesus from the synagogue to throw him off the cliff.
And of course, he passed through safely and eventually went on to Capernaum, where he established his Galilean ministry for a number of years, and there is where he found most of his disciples.